Hi everybody, I'm Kale Kettle. Welcome to this week's Book Chain project. This week, Andreina Cordani interviews Sarah Ann Juckes, author of The World Between Us. It's her second novel out with Penguin, and it's a fantastic book that covers subjects with social media, virtual reality, and also invisible illness, so there's a trigger warning there. It's a great chat. They talk about, as well, writing from different perspectives and sometimes how your characters can take over and lead you places where you don't expect. So I hope you stick around for the whole of the interview. I will see you at the end. Oh, also, there is a spoiler warning.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, welcome to the Book Chain group again, and it's Andreina Cordani here talking to Sarah Ann Juckes. You may have seen us on Instagram Live a couple of days ago, but unfortunately someone didn't quite record it properly, and now Sarah is being kind enough to talk to me again, so thank you so much, Sarah.
Oh no, well it gives us an opportunity to do it again, so that's fine.
To rehearse your interview skills a bit more, I don't know. But thank you so much for being understanding. So yes, welcome to the Book Chain project, and if you could start by telling us a bit more about yourself and your book, that'd be brilliant.
So hello, my name is Sarah Ann Juckes, and I go by Sarah because it's just a bit easier than the Ann side of things. I've been writing since I was 16 years old, but the World Between Us, well, Outside, I would just say, was my first book that I got published, which is, it came out in 2019 with Penguin, and it's about the girl who's trapped in a room and finds a hole in the wall and realises that there's a whole world outside, which is a nice easy pitch, which will always help for things like that. And then The World Between Us came out just last week in March, and it will be out in 4 other languages at the moment, which is exciting, in the next couple of years, so that's cool. And this one is it's about a teenage girl who's bedbound by a chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And she explores the world outside via a series of kind of live stream cameras. And when she's then introduced to a new streamer, then Alice must fight to uncover his secrets as well, whilst trying to cover her own. And that is a kind of much longer pitch for The World Between Us.
Yeah, no, but it's it's a really moving story, and very much kind of set in the real world. I think so when I was talking to Dave Cousins last week, we were talking about ideas floating around in our heads all the time, and like, what was it about this one that meant you had to write it?
Yeah, so it's kind of been floating around in my head for a little while, and that's because the kind of like the real life experience that kind of drove the kind of chronic illness side of it. But it was also, we were watching a documentary called Unrest. It used to be on Netflix, I don't think it is anymore. But it's a really powerful documentary about a journalist who has ME, and she's bedbound for most of the documentary, and she reaches out to people who are also going through a kind of similar thing with ME and kind of chronic illness through the power of the internet, just like they're doing right now. And that, that's really something that we've all learned how to do all over again properly in lockdown. But this we watched this pre-lockdown, and I was really inspired by that, and specifically a scene in it where she's watching someone, I suppose, going on a walk at sunrise or sunset, and she was walking with them in their footsteps. And I was just so like, it was just like an instant kind of little flash of an idea. And I was like, what the wonderful thing about books is, so that it allows you to step into somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes. So, what if we could do that with live streaming? You definitely can through platforms such as Twitch. Me and my partner do that all the time. We watch people like hitchhike around Japan live and stuff like that. It's really cool. So it's kind of was based very much on that, really, that kind of stepping into someone's shoes when you can't step into your own shoes because you're bedbound or housebound or whatever. So yeah.
I mean, the book actually, it sort of, that is the theme of the book. It's also got an immersive quality of its own because you switch perspectives on the same page, which makes it even more kind of powerful. You know, this sort of feeling like you're sitting on their shoulders or you're strapped to their chests. So the characters are called Alice and Rowan, aren't they? And Alice is obviously the one with the illness, and then Rowan is one of her Streamcast friends, or she's never met him, but she's met him through Streamcast. And you, when they're sort of streamcasting, you sort of switch their perspectives on the same page. And I was wondering, kind of, was that an easy thing to achieve? Because we'd see it in chapters, but we don't really see it on the same page normally.
Yeah, and actually just to kind of, I've got a random page here, so you can kind of see, for anyone who has read the book, you can kind of see the different alignment of these chapters.
Yeah.
So we've gone for kind of, I went for prose and kind of the usual kind of left alignment prose for Alice, because she's the main perspective throughout the book. And then Rowan, when he is with her, when they're streaming together, he's verse and italics and right align. So hopefully you can see the difference.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I love doing weird stuff in books like that. This is the kind of stuff that really excites me. Like, how can we push the boundaries of words and formatting and, you know, all that stuff. So I wanted to combine them in the page because they're combined together through this stream that, you know, they're both seeing the same things. And it is a novel, specifically it's about perception. So as Alice looks out onto a beach and sees wonderful things, Rowan sees, like, you know, like a nappy that's fallen out from the bin or something. And it very much is that thing. It's like, it's very much like one person can see something and someone else can see something so different according to their experiences. So luckily I pitched this to my editor over a lunch, and I was like, there's no way she's going to say yes to this. Like, this is crazy. But no, she was really good, and she's like, yeah, no, seems cool, write it and we'll see what happens. So
that's the only way to find out if something works sometimes, isn't it? Just by writing with it and playing with it. So did you always want to do the left and right, or did you have different kind of formats? Did you play around with different formats first?
It kind of came out like that, actually, the left, right, and the italics. We talked about like maybe doing different fonts or something, but it's just easier when it's italics. Everyone knows where they stand. It's easier with ebooks as well. So it's just so hopefully people don't find it too confusing. I think the feedback so far is that it generally, people get, like, first of all, it's like, well, what is going on? And then it's like, okay, no, I get this. So.
It's a very, I mean, you barely notice, it doesn't jar at all once you start.
Oh, good.
That's the deal, and you just kind of get on with it. I think people are very adaptable, especially YA readers. I think they're really open to kind of new formats and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the book, both of your characters are keeping secrets from each other, and obviously Alice is hiding her illness from Rowan, and also from her friend. But Rowan's secret obviously is Rowan has a secret too, and I was wondering if you knew what that secret was right at the beginning and how it fitted in with the story as a whole.
So it's kind of a couple of different answers to that, really. I suppose, like, his secret itself was there from the beginning, and that's because I'm really interested in kind of character mirroring. So when you have a theme in a novel, you can kind of explore it from different perspectives, in exactly the same way as I use that weird typesetting to explore perception. It's the same thing with kind of duality. So the theme there being disability and caring. And so from Alice's perspective, she's the one that needs to be cared for, and from Rowan's perspective, he is the carer for his younger brother. So it's one of those things where that was really important, that kind of mirroring and duality. But then on the other side of things, like Rowan was a completely different person when I first wrote him. He was a proper bad boy. He did some, like, bad things. I think the only thing that kind of came over from that was his kind of street art, which isn't really that bad. But yeah, he was a proper bad boy.
All right. Yeah, which, you know, when you're in the situation he's in, then yeah, you can understand how he would do those things, but also you
Yeah,
want
it's
to
just a bit
person.
cliche, isn't it? So I stopped. I was like, oh god, such a cliche. Let's remove myself from this. He's not a bad boy.
But you were doing wrong by Rowan making him do these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's better than this.
Yeah, it's funny how we get attached to people, and suddenly the thing we wanted them to do, they won't do it anymore.
Yeah. Do you find that with your characters as well?
Well, yeah, I had this thing with like you hear people talk about characters taking over and like switching
Yeah.
themselves. At the end of The Girl Who, so The Girl Who's about two girls, Leah, who's traumatized and fantasizes about revenge, and then there's Ellie, who's just very, very, you know, she's just very happy with her life, and she goes out partying, and she likes to make YouTube videos, and, you know, she wants to be famous, and she wants to have fun, and that's but she's also so there's this one point when they go to a party together, and Leah is trying to track down somebody that she wants to hurt very badly, and Ellie is trying to keep an eye on her because she knows that Leah's unstable. She doesn't know what she wants to do, but unfortunately Ellie is at a party and gets slightly carried away with the fact that she's at a party and loses track of her. And at the time I wrote the chapter, I didn't really know. I knew that Leah was going to have to be alone at the end of the party, but I didn't really know how it was going to happen. Then all of a sudden, you know, Ellie just started dancing on the sofas. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how your brain would just, you know, the character just kind of comes to life and just like, why are you doing that? It kind of works.
Yeah. I know, but there was part of like, the sensible part of me was going, you don't want to do that. You've got to keep an eye on Leah. And I thought, well, actually, that's kind of what Ellie would do. She would, you know, go for it, and then sort of keep half an eye on her. And then Leah obviously disappears. And at the end of the chapter, they've both been separated. Yeah, I should have put the warning at the beginning that there might be spoilers in this conversation. I'm sorry. Anyone watching this who has had these, well, they haven't been spoiled for you because there's still a lot to read.
We'll try our best not to ruin endings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Butler did it. So my husband always says whenever I talk to him about, you know, any book that I'm reading, he just always looks at me and goes, "Oh, the Butler did it." Butler never did it. I don't think there's certainly not any Agatha Christie books when the Butler did it.
No.
This is a public service announcement from the Avalonia Zone. Remember, the undying cannot age past early adulthood, so stay vigilant around young citizens. Report suspicious undying activity on your Report to You app. Without the ability to die from old age, unregistered undying are unemployed undying and a drain on our society. For more information, the book The Undying Tower by Melissa Welliver is out October 2021. The Avalonia Zone, keeping the undying where they belong.
So back to Alice, we're talking about her illness. It's never really defined. It's never really diagnosed. She's got a mishmash of horrendously debilitating symptoms that she has to deal with, and it's different from one day to the next. And there's a lot of skepticism, or she senses skepticism from the medical profession, and it's very frustrating for her. I was just wondering whether that was deliberate, whether it was something that you did on purpose, not defining it.
Yeah, it completely is. And there's actually a few different reasons for that. The main one being that these illnesses, by their nature, are often quite undefinable. So they often go by various different names. Like, for example, you might have heard of like the long COVID thing that's come out at the moment. That's actually, you know, it's long COVID can also be known as post-viral fatigue, which can also be known as chronic fatigue syndrome, or chronic fatigue, which can also be known as ME. So there's lots of different, and there's so little known about these types of illnesses that they can often manifest in lots of different things as well. So, you know, people have read The World Between Us and related to it when they have things like fibromyalgia or lupus, or you know, even MS actually, and even autism, someone was saying. So there's I didn't want to label it, because although labels can be extremely helpful, they can also be like the other side of it is that they can restrict certain medical care, and they can be quite restrictive in their nature as well. So some people don't like being held down to it. So what I wanted to do really is just show a realistic depiction of what it is like to have a kind of chronic fatigue-esque illness, which could have been manifest through any number of different illnesses if you wanted to try and define it, and just kind of show what that looks like, but without labeling it, so that people don't read it and go, this must be what it looks like to have this, when actually, for example, for ME, someone with ME can be bedbound like Alice, or like my partner can be able to work 1 to 2 days a week on good weeks. So that's the kind of difference there in ME, is that it can be so many things. I
have a friend who can you know, function for a long time, and then it just comes back. So you know, she will go over a matter of months, and then all of a sudden it'll swoop back in on her, and that's it, and it's ride the storm. And it's for everybody.
It's different for everyone. Like some people will hear that and go, "Oh, that's just not. It never goes away for me. It's there all the time." And then just, you know, for other people, like kind of our experience here is that it will be there for a number of years, kind of shrink back a little bit for kind of 5, 6, 7 years, and then come back as a surprise in a very bad way later on. So I think so little is known about it, and it's best just not to define it in that way, in a literature form anyway. And more work needs to be done from the medical perspective and the research to make sure that these things are being properly looked at. And hopefully with the long COVID and how many people are suffering from this now, then hopefully that's more research, more money going into these things, and hopefully then being able to find the cure for people like Alice who, you know, might be looking for a way out of their room.
No, absolutely. So I mean, Alice measures her energy in spoons, and it really struck me in the book that, you know, something as simple as brushing her hair could use up 2 spoons one day, and then the next day she can do something else a bit more strenuous. She can get out of bed and you know, shuffle to the door or something, and it doesn't take as many spoons for her. And it's really interesting, that sort of the way that the illness can change from day to day, but also just trying to quantify it so you can explain it to people must be really hard.
Yeah, and that's what the kind of beauty of spoon theory, because spoon theory is like, it's a real theory that a lot of people with chronic illnesses like to use. And it's Christine Miserandino was the kind of creator of that, and it was her trying to explain, I think it was lupus, to her friends, and saying, right, let's think about energy like this pot of spoons on the table, and you know, there's so many things with so many different energy. And it's such a useful way to try and talk about something that's very alien for able-bodied people to really think about, because you don't think about measuring your energy. You think, oh, I'm tired today. That's a very different thing to what it feels like to be fatigued, and kind of measure your energy like that. So it's a really useful real life thing that I really wanted to put in the book. And hopefully it's a way for people who are reading it who are able-bodied to have those conversations with their friends, or you know, the people, and to try and see what it's like for them, to try and open that dialogue a little bit.
I mean, throughout the book, I was desperate for Alice to, you know, have a fantastic happy ending to her story, but obviously, like, in my heart of hearts, I knew that wasn't going to be a recovery, because that would be twee and not real and a bit insulting. So I was wondering, like, you know, how you navigated that.
Yeah, it was really important for me that it be realistic. So a lot of the kind of classic narrative, and it's horrible, the kind of Heidi-esque thing is that if you have a disability, the only way you can be happy is to be cured of that disability. I think that's a really horrible, destructive narrative that needs to be changed. I definitely did not want to feed into that with this book at all. I wanted to try and be a bit more realistic on that. So without trying to name spoilers, I also had to think, though, from a writing perspective, is that you have these narrative arcs, and the idea is that your character, well, you know all about this, but for people that might not know who are watching, the narrative arc is that, you know, your character is different by the end than they are from the beginning. So it's like, okay, what does that look like realistically? So I had a really good chat with my other half about that and kind of what that looks like, and I made sure that was in the book.
Yeah, which we won't.
Without giving the spoilers away.
Yeah, no, it's a tricky one, but yeah, I mean, it still was really moving. So
thank you.
Satisfying as well that she's, you know, it's about finding a sense of self, isn't it? And with like a lot of YA book or a lot of coming of age kind of books, it's about, you know, figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
Kind of what I
finding your community.
Every time I write it always ends up being about figuring out who you are.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know if we ever really, in real life, I don't think we ever really do figure it out. But in books, you know, you need to have some ending.
You're a bit closer to the answer by the end, at least. You're not sort of.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. Because in real life, it would just be like a tale of, I don't know.
Yeah, a year later, you're like, oh, I'm bored of this and do something else now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So also, like, another shout out for Alice's parents, who are completely brilliant, fun characters, and very positive but not saintly. And I was just wondering if it was important to you to portray carers in a kind of real way, to portray the stress they're under and the kind of, you know, the fact that they're human too and they have weaknesses.
Yeah, the parents are really important for a number of different things. Definitely from that perspective, from the carer side, you know, trying to make them realistic and the kind of various pressures that they would feel. You know, as a carer myself, I understand. But also from the kind of more literary diagnostic point of view, it's really important that there be some kind of comic relief characters kind of coming in and mixing the action up a little bit. And that's really important when you have a protagonist such as Alice, who is chronically ill and bedbound, and that's quite a heavy thing to sit with all the time. So those characters are really important, just like, you know, parents are in real life. You know, when you have a good set, like I was very fortunate to have a good set of parents. They are the kind of comic relief most of the time, actually, in my life.
It's always comic relief for teens anyway.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to kind of, it's nice to have nice parents in books occasionally.
Yeah. I think I'm saying that, you know, a lot of parents in YA are very flawed. My parents, not my parents, the parents I wrote about have obviously got their flaws.
Very different.
Yeah, no, exactly. I did actually have to take my mum and dad aside and say, this is not about you. This is not a book about you. It's a YA book. Parents have to make mistakes. So yeah, I don't know whether I should have said it, because it's like I was protesting too much, and maybe they read it thinking, is this me? But I know them, they thought that anyway. No.
Well, I think sometimes, especially non-writers who are family members of writers, can sometimes freak out about that kind of thing. But no, we promise not to.
Yeah. But really, this is fiction. It's fiction. Like, occasionally something creeps in, like someone will have the same favourite perfume or colour or something. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's not quite the same.
Like,
so you wrote your first book when you were 16, and that wasn't the book that wasn't Outside. So how did you manage to write a book when you were 16? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was all my friends just went on holiday. Yeah. I was just on my own and really bored. So it was over the summer I wrote it, and I used to have very vivid, very boy heavy dreams, kind of all like about boys and how I might meet boys. And basically I just put them into a book and wrote them up, and it's an awful book, like really bad, but I think everyone starts out quite bad, and then I mean, it took me a good 12 years then to end up writing outside and getting an agent and getting a deal. So yeah, you know, it's just lots of hard work and lots of failure and perseverance and stuff, and then eventually you get to books that actually are all right, probably, hopefully.
Yeah, I only have got about as far as page 65 when I was writing as a teenager.
Oh really? Oh, that's pretty good.
And I was obsessed with Regency romances, so I just used to write Regency romances. So I could have written Bridgerton, but I didn't.
Could have been you.
No, so, and then, you know, I just used to write stuff that was based on whatever genre I was into at the time. I think it's well to figure out what sort of thing is you.
I think the only reason I mean, I love YA fiction, definitely, but a big reason I write YA is because I started when I was a young adult myself, and it's just kind of never grew out of that.
Yeah, tell me about it. I grew into it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
I was wondering, how do you avoid kind of procrastination and you know, when you're on a deadline and when you need to get stuff done and when your first draft is being tricksy? How do you kind of nail yourself to the desk?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is that I definitely do procrastinate still. A lot of it as well is that I don't have a lot of time anyway to do stuff. I mean, I work 4 days a week at Jericho Writers, and then I also just keep collecting jobs because I cannot say no to things. So, you know, I had last year, I had 8 jobs I counted, which is too many jobs. Yeah, too many jobs. So, I mean, one of those is writer, but there's also another 7. But I do have a lot of volunteering as well. It doesn't help things. But so when I do get times, it's weekends, and I have to do it. And if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. So but that doesn't mean I moan a lot about that. Oh, I'm so tired, that kind of thing. I don't know what the quick fix is there. I think you just have to.
So just moaning about it is good.
Yeah, is that what you do? Do you have a set?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I'm lucky at the moment during the school term, because I've got small children. During the school term, I'm lucky enough to be able to dedicate a lot of that time to writing. I also do freelancing as well, freelance journalism. But when I've got a deadline, I just kind of clear the schedule and dare to say no to some of those jobs that come my way and concentrate on the book instead. But yeah, I still find it really hard. I can still dick about on social media for hours.
Yeah, but I think sometimes that can help though. It just gives you a little bit of a brain break, and sometimes that can just really help. Like you can see here, I've got my writing shed, so I've got my whiteboards on the wall. I've got a whole wall of whiteboards, which was the dream. And that's my kind of, I'm really stuck. I need to try and visually map it out. So I'm going to draw pretty pictures for a bit, kind of deal.
No, I just
I do.
scribble in notebooks, but all of my problem solving is really unphotogenic and ugly, and like it just involves like making notes on my phone, or you know, I do all my planning like on a Word document, and I do have a pinboard, but the kids have nicked it, and at the moment this is their crime scene investigation.
Oh, that's cool.
Down the beast. See, there's the beast, and here's all the footprints they found.
Oh, that's like that's proper CSI stuff. That is great.
Smart girl murder. But
yeah, that's really cool.
It looks less visual and lovely when I do something.
Well, that's probably reality though.
There's one thing we need to do, which the challenge that we've been set as the part of the Book Chain project is we need to figure out a question to ask your next interviewee next week. So I'm just trying to, have you had a think about what sort of things you're going to ask her?
Yeah, so it's Sheila M. Aberbook, and you know, I've been just like I've fallen down a hole actually with her book because it's such a page turner. Like it really does keep you on the edge of the seat. So I suppose and you know, actually with yours as well, I think you guys like with that pacing thing are really good. So I think it's like my question would probably be like, how do you do that? How do you keep that pace and momentum? Like, how do you keep people turning the pages of your book? That's probably the biggest one I have at the moment.
Oh, I think you seem to manage it yourself as well. So I still sat up late trying to finish it. So yeah, I don't know. That would be a really interesting one to ask her. I think her book is sort of centered around social media. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So because my next book's about social media. Well, it's about people. People who sort of, you know, bloggers and people who share videos on a streaming platform, and a bit of moida thrown in. So I guess I'd like to ask her about kind of the research she's done into that and the just and also like balancing it because you know it's not all evil. But some of it is just crazy. It's just, you know, it doesn't our brains and you know makes us twist the way we think about ourselves sometimes. And so I just think it's interesting to play with that and wondering how much fun she had doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that actually I'm going to steal that as a question for her next week.
Excellent. So what's next for you? What's your plans from now on?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of things on the go actually. The next one is kind of looking at a third YA. So thinking about what that might be. I'm kind of looking at exploring fear as a theme. It's something that's very important to me as someone who's terrified of everything. And actually what's really interesting now, I don't know whether you're finding this for your third book, but also thinking about how to bring COVID into a book and whether you ignore it or whether you bring it in. So fear and COVID, you know, especially with someone who lived, you know, I lived with someone who's CEV, and the kind of fear around that. And that's something that's not going to go away for us for years. Like, oh my God, like, so, you know, bringing some of that into a book, I think is really important, especially for young people.
I was going to say, a lot of young people have had such a rough year and a really hard time making sense of it, and like, you know, just being pulled this way and that by peer pressure and fear and their parents' fears and their own fears. And it's a really interesting thing to explore. To be honest, with my social media related book at the moment, there's so many crowd scenes in it. That I couldn't see how to fit it in around lockdown. So mine is in a weird parallel universe at the moment.
Or like pre-COVID or very post-COVID, and it's difficult to imagine what that.
I think a lot of people are wrestling with that now.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But anyway, it's been a brilliant pleasure having you, and thank you so much for doing this again. I'm sorry that the original one was lost in the midst of Instagram, but it's really nice to have an excuse to chat again and expand on some of the stuff we talked about. Thank you very much. Have a brilliant weekend, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for your help anyway.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for your next scary read? Why not try The Shadow Keepers by Marisa Noel? Shadow creatures have been hunting 16-year-old Georgia Boone from mirrors and other reflective surfaces for 10 years, but no one believes her. An incident lands Georgia in Brickwood Hospital, the UK's most prestigious mental health hospital, where she's forced to face her fear of mirrors and answer the question, Are the shadows real, or is it all in her head?
Really, kind of, we really need to know, Marvel or DC.
Anyone actually say DC in that scenario? Surely it's only
Last
Marvel.
week I said Marvel, but I really like Swamp Thing, which is DC.
I'm not sure.
So, but I think nobody, there might be some few diehard Batman fans out there, but
Yeah, he's never been my one. I mean, I love the Joker when Heath Ledger played it. I thought that was great, but otherwise it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, a bit of Thor, Ragnarok. It's just comedy, isn't it? It's great.
Sorry. So yeah, I know. Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse, again, a no-brainer for me.
Oh really? See, I would say neither. I think they're both boring, and what I really liked was the Animaniacs. Did you ever watch that? That was amazing.
Oh my god, no, you've just put the song into my head for the next 3 days.
Yeah, amazing. It's a fantastic one.
In my book, one of the people in the book, one of their nicknames is Animaniac, and so I've been like sitting there typing away with na 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 in my head the whole time.
That's amazing. Who was yours?
I prefer Bugs Bunny. I can't abide the mouse, really. I like a lot of Disney films, but for some reason I've just never got Mickey.
Yeah, that's
why that is. It's not annoyingly my voice. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I never really watched it either.
No. Well, we didn't. I didn't think in this country, like when I was a kid and I used to go to Italy a lot, all of the kids over there, so the comics, I was reading, I was in the Beano or whatever, and the comics over there, they had Topolino, which was just a Mickey Mouse comic books, and they were huge. They were so popular. And we just don't have the same thing over here, really. We didn't have that.
No, we don't. No,
it just wasn't funny.
I used to watch like a lot of Looney Tunes as well. So, but yeah, just wasn't really a thing.
And top writing tip.
Oh, be prepared to fail is my nice go-to one. Failure is an inevitable part of writing. It happens all the time. Even after you get a publishing deal, you just fail until you win. So that's my tip, is just, if you fail, don't worry about it. It happens. It means you're a proper writer.
Yeah, no, sometimes I think I'm just going to keep throwing the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Eventually something is going to stick to the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you just got to be prepared to kind of throw it, really. It takes a lot of time. There's no quick fix to writing, whether or not that's the writing element or the publishing part.
Yeah,
it's all it all takes a lot of time and energy and failure and setbacks, but it all helps, makes you a better writer.
Anyone would think it wasn't fun. It kind of is, but there's also a flip side.
Yeah, it's probably like that same kind of fun that like running marathon is fun, because when it's like
yeah.
But when you get to the end, you're like, oh yeah, I could probably do that again.
Well, no, maybe not the end. Maybe 6 months afterwards, you start thinking, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I forgot how much it hurt me the first time.
So, what is your? What would you choose as your spirit animal?
A fox.
A fox.
Yeah. I'm from Leicester originally, and we're big football fans in my house. I mean, I'm not, but my mum used to work at the football stadium, and my dad is a big football fan, and their mascot is Filbert Fox. So Fox is
so it has to be.
Yeah, this whole thing throughout my childhood, and I don't know, I just think they're really cool. So, but then again, my Patronus in Harry Potter was just like a cat, and I have a cat, so maybe it would be a cat. But I'd like to say foxes are probably a bit cooler than cats.
I said piglet squid last week, which is the weirdest animal I can think of, but it's very cute.
What?
A piglet squid. Google it, it's really cute. In a weird sort of way.
Oh, okay. That's exciting.
What 3 books would you take with you to a desert island?
Oh, it's probably a really clever answer there, where it's like, oh, several books within a book, kind of the complete works of Shakespeare kind of thing. But I think actually, I mean, maybe the correct answer is to say my Kindle, which has got loads of
Dave
books
was
on.
really strict with me last week. You know, I think I tried to get away with like the 1-volume Lord of the Rings, and he was like, nope.
Ah, damn. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with Peter Pan and Wendy, J.M. Barrie. I've read that a lot. It's my favourite book. A Monster Calls Patrick Ness. The pictures are amazing. The story is even more amazing in here. And I suppose like the third one, let's say your book. I'm going to go with The Girl.
You know, you need to start the fire with something.
No. I quite like light books as well as dark books, and I try to merge the two together with the stuff I write, I guess. So yeah, that's
I just
good. It's good to
can't
have
pin down a genre. I just can't pick a genre that I like, and I find it really hard, you know, sharing my reads on Instagram and stuff, because like one week it's like a saga, and the next week it's you know, some kind of terrifying horror, and then, you know,
yeah, but I think that's quite realistic though. Like I think we're all a bit like that, aren't we? Like it just depends on our moods. Like we can't just say I only ever read this, although I do normally say I only read children's books. Stop sending me the adult ones. But yeah.
Well, I did. I went through like a couple of months of reading nothing but YA and children's, and then I thought, and then I suddenly looked over at this big pile of, you know, grown-up books I'd still been buying the whole time. That I better start reading those as well.
Yeah, I find them really boring now for the most part. Adult books, it's like, oh, get to the action. Like,
I have to say it's a lot slower. You can burn through quite a few YA books in the space of a month, whereas adult books, you're like, oh, I forgot that, you know, the murder doesn't happen until page 150.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. You just sort of your mind just reshapes what you're expecting of the plot when you read all of one kind of YA or all adult.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I haven't read an adult book.
Because I had a writer friend of mine or my ex-editor Sam Baker used to avoid reading certain writers when she was writing, because she used to pick up their style. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, where you sort of read a writer and you end up writing in their kind of style.
Yeah, it happens with me for just like people as well. I'm quite a voice writer, apparently. I write voice. So I will just pick up random voices. Is that really, you know, that really awkward thing where you're speaking to someone with a really strong accent and you start doing the accent back to them?
Yeah.
That is just what I do. But like if someone's speaking to me a lot with like a Geordie accent, I will write a Geordie accent. Like Outside kind of came about a little bit like that with the Southern American kind of style thing that I've got going on in there. And I can't do that accent. I can do it in my head, I know it, but like I cannot do it. So someone has to
so you can write American, but you just can't read it out at school visits or anything like that.
Exactly. I just come out Northern. I didn't think that one through. That's funny.
Well, anyway, I think that's all of the green room questions done now. So unless there's anything else you'd like to add, but I'll be looking forward to watching next week and seeing the next instalment. Can't wait. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to interviewing Sheila. Actually, I think I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing about her whole world that she's developed and stuff. Yeah, because I've heard about the book and I really like the sound of it. Haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out more. Quite the page turner. Brilliant. Girl. Okay, well, have a lovely week in the meantime, and I look forward to relaxing and watching you ask the questions next week. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, you can chill now. Yeah. Thanks very much. All right. Thank you. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, I hope you really enjoyed the interview. Next week, Sarah will be interviewing Sheila Averbook, author of Friend Me, and they'll talk about virtual reality and technology and stories that thrill. So I hope you join us then. Bye for now.